so hopefully you guys are all good and you're all getting ready for Christmas, and maybe that means that some of you will get a little bit more chance to play and practice some golf. Now I know that's possibly the case with some of the people I've been working with online recently, so hopefully that is the same for you guys equally. Now, as promised, this week we're going to be talking very much about the release. The release is a complicated subject area, and that's why we're always going to kind of just take it into little bite-sized chunks. But the release really is kind of just like the question of how does the club head get down towards the back of the golf ball and get the club face square. So sometimes golfers talk about the release in terms of the cocking and uncocking of the wrists, and also the sort of rotation of the forearms and the arms to get the club face square. And like I say, little bite-sized chunks, we're going to be talking about those things, so it should offer you guys a lot of clarity. What I wanted to do today is I just wanted to kind of get this process started with the biggest fault that I tend to see with amateur golfers. And it comes very much down to obviously squaring the club face. And, you know, this might be really applicable to you guys, you know, where you'll kind of look at your golf swing and you'll sort of notice your impact position looks something like so. And maybe your post-impact position looks a little this way. So from a face-on perspective, maybe that's even more obvious whether that's you. So I was kind of showing impact looking a bit this way and post-impact looking this way. So one of the things that we don't want to happen in that hitting area, and this is slightly dramatized, but it's probably easier to visually see it this way, is when you look down, you kind of always want to make sure that your hands are leading the race towards the back of the golf ball ahead of the club head. So that basically just means my hands here, okay, are ahead of the golf ball, okay, before the club head reaches it through the width of my stance. So you can kind of see my hands are here, here, and then there'd be something like so. Now with a lot of amateur golfers, you tend to see that's not the case. You tend to see that the club head outraces the hands in this sort of, you know, impact area. So one of the things that's happening with that is potentially the functionality of this trail arm. Okay, and I want to concentrate a little bit on the forearm. So one of the feelings that is a really, really strong one for golfers who are uncertain of how should I sequence my downswing, what should I do? Well, one of the tips I'd always say is, well, however you get to the back of the golf ball, you want to feel like you're keeping that right forearm or your trail forearm pointing up to the sky. Okay, because when we look at pros, yes, there's more things that impact here, or more things that are influencing impact here in terms of how we move, but you want to try and keep that forearm pointing up towards the sky. You don't want it pointing sort of down to the ground or pointing too much at the target too soon. Okay, because that is going to have a huge influence on your delivery. So what is the biggest problem for amateur golfers? Biggest problem for amateur golfers when it comes to release is that the club shaft comes down too vertically. That's 100% the thing that I tend to see is the biggest problem. And when it comes to the release, that's the big thing that you want to not happen. So this basically just means that that sort of club shaft is coming down too much this way, club ends up traveling too much out, and then obviously you're going to get too flicky that we've already spoken about. So to eliminate that, it doesn't even matter if you get the club slightly underplane, where it kind of comes down under this way. Again, yes, do we want to travel up and down the same incline? Yeah, of course we do, but there are also going to be examples, as we'll sort of touch upon this week, whether, depending how you grip it, whether you're somebody who induces flexion, where the club head will look like it kind of goes in different sort of directions. But again, what's important, you can't recover from this type of position. You can recover from this type of position. So that's why I'm saying I think a good place for those of you that watch this video looking for just a one-off tip, or those of you that watch this video in the series that I'm going to try and create for you, and you want to kind of have a little golden gospel rule that you always want to abide to, and it's basically just keep the right forearm, or your trail forearm I should say, pointing up towards the sky. Because like I say, even if I demonstrate from an impact position here from a face on, again, roll this up, you can see my forearm, right? And as I go into the post-impact position, it's not this way. Now, eventually, as you continue and you go past that point, when both your arms are sort of straightening, then of course, this is going to start to really sort of pronate and move. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to be doing that too soon, because that's going to be the big thing that's going to offer you inconsistency. So when you go out now and go and make a few swings, going to start thinking about your downswing, and we're going to talk about how your body moves to stop things, you know, like the casting motions and all the rest of it. But you've got to keep that forearm pointing up towards the sky. It's a golden tip that will help you out in a big, big way. Catch up with you guys again really soon.